Yo, yo, there you go. It's 2026. This is not the smartest guys in the room. I see my favorite person, Tom. How are you doing today, Tom?
I'm doing great, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. My, I'm not even jinxing it, talking about mics or cameras. So forget that. I'll just go straight in. Went to a networking event this morning and tried. I switched something up, and I usually drink coffee. Coffee hurts my stomach. It's hurted my stomach for years. I don't know. I can't figure it out. Today, my wife suggested I try a tea with creams in it and things like that. I didn't know you could put creams in a tea, and it was great, and my stomach doesn't hurt. It was called an English fog or something. What do you think?
London fog?
It could have been a London fog. I thought it was English fog, but maybe you're right. Maybe it was
I mean, I don't know.
London.
I was just thinking London fog because of like the old like the raincoat brand or whatever, right? That's just what
Okay,
popped into my head.
you
From
could be right. That makes more sense.
yeah. There you go. Speaking of which, remind me later. I've got something that I stumbled on early this morning from a nostalgia perspective. Maybe I'll do a little memory lane of my own later, but remind me about that because I've got something I stumbled on that I want to share with you and with everybody else as well. But yeah, welcome to 2026. It's good. And also, yeah, I mean like tea is good. I usually like my kind of routine and this is like kind of happened over the last couple of years, but my routine generally is I drink coffee in the morning and I usually have like 3 cups of coffee. Like we make a pot of coffee every morning for whatever reason, the size of our mugs, like the cups on the side of the pot of coffee are never exactly like doesn't translate exactly to like, because they're using some arbitrary size or whatever. But like the mugs that we use, basically the way it works out is like there's like 5 cups of coffee in the pot or 5 cups of coffee total in the pot for like the size mugs that we use. Generally speaking, Becky has 2 cups and I have three, right? Like that's just usually the way it goes. And so then I switch to tea rather than making another pot of coffee or whatever. I'll just switch to tea because I can just do that 1 cup at a time really easily. And yeah, I drink tea. I'll usually have like one or two like giant mugs of tea like this a day, particularly in the winter. And then in the summer, I just drink a lot of seltzer pretty much, but because we have like one of those soda stream things. So I just drink a ton of seltzer during the summer, but like when it's hot out. But yeah, tea is my go-to, like in cooler weather, like later in the morning. I mean, it's not that late in the morning, but I've been up since 4:30, so it's kind of late morning for me. Um, but yeah, so like, later in the morning I switch to tea, in the afternoon I switch to tea. Yeah, tea's good. Like and I put milk and honey, right, in my tea. Like how could you go wrong? Good old milk and honey. Classic combination.
So do you consider iced tea the same as a regular tea? Just so I know here. So when you say I switch to tea, like, oh yeah, I'm drinking Turner's tea all the time. But is that a classic tea, or is that not, like, as a tea aficionado poo-pooing on my sugary iced tea?
Well, I definitely wouldn't call myself a tea aficionado. I don't think I would call myself an anything aficionado. I don't think I would ever use that term to describe myself, just because it sort of like feels like you're instantly looking down your nose at someone if you describe yourself as an aficionado in anything, right? But I would say, like, I think, like, for me anyway, when it comes to iced tea, like, I just drink unsweetened iced tea. Right, so, like, for me, like, I don't put any sweetener in iced tea. Iced tea, I like the sort of, like, the tannic, kind of slight bitterness of iced tea without any sweetener in it, but for hot tea, I like a little bit of honey and some milk. So, that's just a preference thing, I think.
Okay, fair enough. All right, now that we've beat tea to people are gonna all hate tea now. Let's talk about our goal today. You brought this up, was industry and media trends, or trends in general for 2026. You're thinking predictions, Tom. So is that you got like hot takes like you're Nostradamus, or what's your plan here?
I mean, I do wanna make a prediction for 2026, so that was the idea, because I sort of, like, I'm curious. I have, like, historically, over time, I've sort of, like, quietly made predictions and I'm not saying I'm any kind of like fortune reader or anything crazy or Nostradamus or anything like that, but I think I am decently good at seeing trends as they start to emerge in places that I'm particularly interested in, right? And when I say seeing trends, I'm not talking about like trending sounds on social media, right? Like, I'm not talking about any of that kind of stuff. I'm talking about like sort of like larger social industry wide kind of trends. Like, I've been generally pretty good at saying, hey, I see this happening now. Here's what I think is going to happen in the future. And generally speaking, I've been pretty accurate with that, right? Like, I started saying back in like, I want to say like 2010, somewhere around there, maybe even a little bit earlier, maybe 2009, 2008. I started saying back then that cable TV was going to die, and that ultimately what we would end up seeing was, because people argued with me about it, because they said, no, 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 well, what's going to happen? What are all the cable providers going to do? And at that time, we'd started seeing cable providers beginning to provide cable internet, right? And so I said, what's going to happen is cable television providers are going to become simply internet service providers, period, end of story. Cable TV is going to die. All of our content is going to come through the internet. That's what I was saying in like 2009, 2010, right? And sitting here in the beginning of 2026, I feel pretty good about having said that in 2009, 2010, right? I feel like not not exactly predicting, like, I'm not, again, like, I'm not a fortune teller, right? Like, I'm not trying to say I'm Nostradamus, but I think I was pretty accurate about what I saw coming down the pike, right? And it's part of the reason why I left the TV industry in 2018, was because I saw that trend starting to emerge 8 years before, in like 2009, 2010. And over the next 8 years, I only saw it become more and more likely as cable television continued to sort of wither on the vine. And so now, I think genuinely, I think some of the only people I know that still have cable TV are people that either A, have it for kind of a nostalgia factor, and because they're just used to it, and for watching sports, right? Because it's the easiest way to sort of like watch sports if you're a big sports fan, right? Still, cable TV is better than like sort of the jumbled apps, because the sport, like, same the same sport is spread across different apps depending on the day, and it gets really confusing, right? So I also think we're gonna see some other stuff happening with that, but I'll leave that. That's a prediction, not necessarily for this year, but just generally. But the other thing is, the only other people I know that still have cable TV are people of like my parents' generation, right? People who are, or like kind of younger end of their generation, right? People who are in like their like 65 plus, like sort of retirement age. A lot of those people still have cable TV because it's all they've really known, and they're not very internet savvy. But I think for people who are sort of our age and younger, I don't know very many people, if any, and definitely not people who are like in their 30s or younger now. Like, none of them have cable TV, right? And they don't, because it doesn't make any sense for them, right? It's kind of a silly thing to have. So yeah. So anyway, that was a very long way of explaining why I wanted to make some predictions today for the coming year in 2026. So I want to kind of focus on what I think we're going to see happening this year, right, in 2026. So now that I've been talking for a couple of minutes, Dom, why don't you kind of throw a prediction out there for us, if you're
Okay, I'm game, and I wrote some down. I had an idea that's what you were going with. So 2026 predictions, I got a bunch here. First, I sit in front of a wall of books, and I am a publisher. That's how I make my living. I want to tell you, physical books are back. People want to hold a book in hand. I agree that I'm going to get into other things that I think are cool. I'm going to talk about, I have another thing that I think is a prediction, but actually holding a physical book in your hand, people want that. So this year, you are going to see more people saying, yeah, they might buy it multiple ways, but I'm going to go, meaning they might download it as an ebook, they might download it as an audiobook, but they also may want to hold. They do want to hold that book in their hand. So I'm going all in, Tom. Physical books are back. And I was thinking they've been around the thousands of years. People tried to get rid of them. They're still here after thousands of years. You tell me what other things have been around thousands of years? Water and books. So fire. So that's what I got for my first prediction, Tom. There you go.
Water. So your three things that have been around for thousands of years are water, fire, and books.
Nailed it. That's it, man. That's it. Okay, okay, you're up, man. Next prediction. What do you
All
got?
right. All right. Well, I like that. And so, and I kind of, I'm with you on that, right? Like, I think I agree. And I actually say in my book, shameless plug, Legendaring, available anywhere books are sold. Um, but I actually say in my book, right, that the reason why I chose to write a book was because it is still, I think, the best reference material you can have, right? Like, it is very easy to like mark a page in a book, make a note in the margin, highlight something, right? And then use that as a reference and go back to it really easily. It's much more easy to do it in a physical book than it is in any other sort of format. And I think we've seen the peak of sort of e-readers, right? I would guess if we looked at the sales data, I would guess it's been plateaued, right? Or gradually going up, but like the big jump up happened about 10 years ago. And I don't think maybe longer than that at this point. And I don't think that they're going to continue to go up in the same way. I actually have gone back to, I was physical books, then I went e-reader. I was an early adopter of e-reader when it came out, and now I'm back to physical books. So like anecdotally, I'm good evidence for your argument there, for your prediction. All right, my prediction, and like this is sort of a big overarching prediction. So I don't have like a list of like small predictions necessarily. I have a big overarching prediction. We can sort of unpack pieces of it. There are pieces of it to unpack, and then I've got some other sort of like trends that I kind of see coming that I'd love to talk about too. But my big prediction for 2026 is I think this is the year when the rubber is going to meet the road in terms of whether or not businesses will find success in shipping their creative work to AI. And I think what we're going to see happen in 2026 is that businesses will be forced to reckon with the idea that they cannot ship their creative work to AI, that it is falling flat on its face, that it is costing them more than it is generating for them, and that they are going to revert back to human driven creative work for their brands and businesses. I mean that specifically in the context of like video content, right? Like that people have been shipping creative work to AI for video, right? More and more, we've seen big brands do it a bunch, but we've also seen a ton of pushback, right? Especially like sort of like easy example, right? The Coca-Cola Christmas ads that they did with AI, nobody liked them, right? It was like it's sort of a novelty, and I think the shine has worn off, and people are like, yeah, it was like fun to see it once, but like stop it. Stop doing it. It's weird. It's like uncanny valley, strange. I don't like it. It feels mechanical and computer driven and non-human, right? It has that feeling to it and people don't like it. And so I think 2026 is going to be the year where like where businesses really have to reckon with the fact that shipping their creative work to AI is not working, and they will revert back to shipping or to relying on human driven creative work for their brands and businesses. So that's my prediction for 2026.
Well done, Tom. I had AI similar in the book business, seeing so many people go straight AI with all AI made me a book. AI did this. AI, it's a tool. AI stole. AI referenced a thousand other things that were already done. So this blind, like I sometimes I'll sit around with my kids and be like, I'm going to start an AI. I'm just going to start every company and say it's AI. AI fast food company, AI because it was such a buzzword last year. AI real estate company, AI this. You'll see even in the ads, AI banking now, AI this. They think like if I put AI in front of cherry pies, it's good. No, AI isn't always AI. To your point, and with the videos, isn't always the best way. So I agree with you. Okay, so I'm coming out. And I want to let you know, Jimmy Lois, we got the Tom Stums coming. I'm going to start 2026 with the toughest Tom Stums in a long time. And so I'm even going to give you a little time to think about that, Tom. But that is coming soon here in a few minutes. But so my next prediction for 2026 is divisive content, divisive people are out. It's not cool. It's done. Even the algorithms, you know, how people are like, oh, algorithm shows you what you want to see, shows you what you're pausing on, shows you. Even the algorithms are starting, people are coming out, wait, don't show me that. I didn't know you were showing me things just to make me mad. People are becoming aware of this whole world of things being sent to you to make you mad, and the people that uh, benefited and profited off of this divisive content, it's out. It's not cool. You have been exposed and your time is up. So that's my trend on that, Tom. That's that prediction. Go on, my friend.
I like that. I think that's yeah. I mean, I think that's a good prediction. I agree with it. I think along the same vein too. I think in 2026 we're going to start to see. It's already been happening, I think, to some extent, but I think on a broader scale. I think we're going to start to see some real pushback against sort of algorithmic driven social media kind of style content feeds, right? And specifically, I mean, like sort of the style of content feeds that we have seen from Meta in particular, right? So, like the Facebook algorithm and the Instagram algorithm, I think we're going to see increasing pressure on Meta to force them to reconfigure their algorithm to be more in line with, I think one of the reasons why TikTok was so successful and so quickly found success was because their algorithm was entirely built around feeding you content that was similar to the content that you watched the most, right? So it wasn't necessarily geography based. It wasn't necessarily kind of following the rules of the algorithm based on like what they wanted you to see, right? Or what they thought you should see. It was like, no, 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 you said you like this. Okay. Based on that, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about this? So you felt a little bit more in control, right, of what you were getting to see. And you saw also really interesting differentiation, and people would talk about like, what's in your feed? What do you see? I see these kind of videos all the time. Really? Like, okay, that's interesting. That must mean that you find X, Y, and Z interesting, whatever it is, right? So, like, I think that we're going to continue to see more and more pushback, particularly against Meta, for the style of algorithm that they employ on their platforms, the way that they feed content to people, and the fact that it has kind of, to your point of divisiveness, has sort of been heavily focused on divisive content because they've been very good at promoting sort of clickbaity, rage baity kind of content. And I don't think that that is a sustainable model. I think they're going to continue to get more and more pushback on it. And there's going to be some reckoning along with that. I actually think Meta is going to be slow to adopt and they're going to lose a ton of money in the process because of that. But that's kind of a further down the road prediction. But yeah, I think there's going to be increasing pressure on social media in particular to make the algorithms a little bit more like TikTok's as opposed to sort of clickbaity, promoting rage baity kind of content. But yeah, so that's my next sort of prediction for 2026. What do you think?
I think that's good stuff, Tom. I agree with you. And Facebook was one of the people in my thought process I identified as I probably benefiting the most off of this. Uh, they pretended like they don't like it, and they like it, and so they're guilty. Okay, industry and media trends for 2026. This is not the smartest guys in the room. Lois, do you want to, before we get to Tom Stums, do you want to give an industry media trend prediction for 2026? And anybody else, come on up.
Wow.
What do
new to this whole thing about media and trending and all that stuff. Honestly, the thing that I look for most on social media is anything that's authentic. So it's one, that's one of the reasons I don't go care about followers, and I don't endlessly scroll for, what's the latest rage. So honestly, I'm just listening in to learn from the experts here.
Hey, well, we appreciate your honesty, and authenticity is in. That's cool. So, how about a trend? We'll predict authenticity plays in 2026. Now, it's time, Tom. It's time. 2026, our first Tom's Thumbs of the year. I am coming out swinging. And so let's see how Tom handles this. Tom, I even wrote it down here for first Tom's Thumbs. A thumbs up or thumbs down to gene editing.
As in like CRISPR?
As in GENE, companies that edit DNA on babies and such. So maybe they stop, some think they can indicate certain markers for health issues. Some might be wanting their kids' eyes to be blue, and they're benefiting from this or not. So, Tom, that's what I mean by gene editing. What say you? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
All right. So here's what's tough about this, right? Is the context really, really matters, right? I think it matters a ton in this particular case. But like, depending on the context, I would give different answers to this. So are you willing to set a context for me?
Tom, this is your segment. Anybody, do we allow Tom to talk to Touchy? Is he allowed to have context, or is it blind, or do we set him up? What do you think?
You can have context.
Context. Dr. Tachi says you're allowed context. So go on, Tom, however you see fit, because I knew this was a difficult one. Go on.
Well, so the context really is what is the use case for gene editing, right? In my mind, right? So I'm going to give two different contexts, right? And I will give my thumbs up or thumbs down to each of those contexts, right? So obviously, like I mentioned, CRISPR. CRISPR is one of the tools and one of the systems that they've used for gene editing, right? Thus far. It's probably a term that a lot of people are relatively familiar with or have heard in sort of like media coverage and talking about gene editing. So that's why I mentioned it when you said gene editing, and I said, "Oh, do you mean like CRISPR?" That's what I was talking about, right? That was my reference. So when it comes to we've discovered, right? Science has discovered, when I say we, I'm not doing the research. Science has discovered that there are sort of genetic markers for or certain genes that create relatively high predispositions for certain disease vectors, right? For certain diseases, right? Chronic diseases. And some of those are as specific as like breast cancer, right? Or diabetes or coronary vascular disease, right? Like there are certain genes that they've discovered that are very clearly linked to, if you have an expression of that gene, you have a very high likelihood of developing one of these chronic diseases, right? Now, these chronic diseases are obviously bad for a variety of reasons, right? Obviously for the human impact, right? For the human suffering, the sort of premature death that they can cause, right? And also quality of life challenges that they pose. They're also bad on a cultural and societal level because of the burden that it places on other members of society who have to provide care for these people who suffer from these chronic conditions, and also because of the cost burden that they place on healthcare systems, right? And so, in that context, if it's possible with gene editing, right, with technology like CRISPR, to go in and to turn off a gene or to remove the expression of a gene that will likely cause someone to develop breast cancer later in life, I say go in there and turn it off, right? If we can turn off a gene that will likely lead to someone developing a genetically linked disorder like sickle cell anemia, right? Like pulmonary, coronary artery disease, like pulmonary issues, whatever the case may be, right? Other cancers, right? In addition to breast cancer, right? If we can go in and we can turn off gene expressions that reduce the likelihood that people will suffer from these chronic conditions that have genetic links, I say get in there and turn those genes off, right? I'm 100% for that. In my mind, in that case, it's preventative medicine. And even in the case of selective gene editing prenatally, right? If it means that we can turn off a gene that will cause, say, for example, if we can do gene editing that would mean that someone is born without Down syndrome, for example, right? If we could go in and we can remove that extra chromosome that leads to that causes Down syndrome, right? I think, yeah, go do that, right? Because no question, the life of a person with Down syndrome is more challenging than the life of a person without Down syndrome. So they are starting life at a disadvantage. And I think if we can remove that, then we should. It's still the same person. They just don't have Down syndrome, right? So I think we should remove that roadblock. If we can go in and selectively edit genes that remove congenital birth defects, right? I think we should do that, right? There's no reason why somebody should have to be born with a cleft palate if we can make it so they're not born with a cleft palate, right? Like that's an easy yes. That's an easy thumbs up for me. So when it comes to medical interventions that remove hurdles, roadblocks, disadvantages that make people's lives substantially better, I say thumbs up all the way, right? Now, when it comes to selective gene editing for cosmetics, right? And that's what I'm going to call it. If you're doing selective gene editing to determine your baby's eye color, right? That feels cosmetic to me, right? If you're doing selective gene editing to determine the skin tone of of your child, right? That feels cosmetic to me. If you're doing selective gene editing to determine how tall your child will be, right? How tall your child will grow to be, that feels like cosmetics to me. And in those instances where it is completely elective, where you are kind of almost like shopping for your ideal child, right? It gets a little too dystopian, right? A little too like uncanny valley for me, and I absolutely give it its use in those cases a thumbs down. I think that is a bad precedent to set. I don't think it's a road we should go down as a culture, as a race. I don't think it's something we should do. I think when it comes to the treatment of chronic illness and chronic disease and sort of like treating those diseases, preempting those diseases, removing the cause of those diseases, then I'm 100% for it. But when it comes to cosmetics, no thanks. Gets a thumbs down.
Well done, my friend. I could have let off the year with like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelsey or Bill Belichick, but I figure why not? To Jimmy Aj says a thumbs up and a thumbs down. Well, there was context. He asked for context. All right, let's keep this rolling. This is not the smartest guys in the room. We appreciate you all being back this year. Tom, would you do me a favor and tell people the many places we are now? We just keep expanding. So where we at, man?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are obviously streaming all over the internet as per usual, right? We're on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn, we are on Twitch, we are on TikTok, right? I think through your account. So we're on TikTok as well. We are also on Indie Soup with Dr. Tachi, and we are also a podcast available on multiple podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, and I think a couple other platforms as well. We've recently been submitted, soon to be coming to iHeart Media. I think we're also available on, now I'm blanking on the platform. Anyway, wherever you get your podcasts, probably one of the major platforms, you'll find us there.
Well done. Well done. Okay, I got more predictions here. All right, let's see here. Here's something that I'm tired of. I know they're out there, but a trend. I am tired. It's almost like a lump of coal. Everything being a click funnel is done. Every interaction doesn't have to be a click funnel. And I think that like actually establishing a relationship with somebody, building trust, getting to know them, that is going to be in 2026. Click funneling everything is a trend that I think is going to be out. All of a sudden, people are going to be like, wait a minute. You met me through a click funnel. I see. I just pushed this button, and then you did this and this. I think that is coming to a halt in 2026 are not going to be so cool. So there you go, Tom.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the sort of the proliferation of the click funnel style of marketing and sales is hopefully past its heyday and waning. Because yeah, it drives me nuts. I mean, it's very much in line with and related to the sort of bro marketing that I rail against all the time, but also just feels very pyramid schemey, right? I mean, it's akin to the sort of pyramid schemes that we've all sort of been taught to be distrustful of. Multi-level marketing, right, is obviously the sort of the preferred nomenclature for pyramid schemes because they feel like it makes them sound more legitimate. But we all know that multi-level marketing is a pyramid scheme, right? They're the same thing. It's just a different term for it that they like a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. I think that I hope that we're going to continue to see sort of the fall of multi-level marketing style sales. And I think ClickFunnels are a really good example of that. It's sort of that style of selling, like sell, 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 like just hit you over the head, hit you over the head, hit you over the head, and like hope that somebody will click buy at some point. And I don't think it's sustainable. And I think we're starting to see, some real pushback on that side. Kind of going along with that, I think one of the other things that we're gonna start to see more of in 2026, and this is actually going back to what Lois talked about with authenticity. Authenticity has been a buzzword. I think it was like the word of the year in 2024, something like that. So it's been buzzy, it's been bandied about. But I think, like, again, kind of going back and also relating a little bit to my prediction, my overarching prediction for 2026, I think, again, the rubber is going to meet the road a little bit. We're going to see people start to outright reject inauthentic content, right? Very salesy content, AI driven content, AI created content that is not sort of done tongue in cheek. I see a lot of really funny uses of AI created video, which I'm all for. It's not like I think AI video is the worst, but I think when people do it to try to replace human driven content, you run into a problem. And I think it's that lack of authenticity that really underlies people's sort of inherent dislike and distrust for it. And I think we're going to continue to see more pushback on that as we go into 2026. We're going to see people really, really railing against that inauthenticity, that inhuman kind of uncanny valley. I've used that term like, I don't know, about 6 times in this episode already. But yeah, I think that's where we're headed for 2026 for sure. Is lots more pushback on that and outright rejection of it. I think that's a safe prediction from my perspective. Outright rejection of it.
Good stuff, Tom. Well, let's dig into our boss and one of our media experts, Dr. Tachi. Hello, good morning. Do you have a 2026 prediction? What do you got going on?
Excuse me. Hey, good morning, all. There's so many. Well, first of all, I mean, we already started to see this in 2025, but things like the rise of micro dramas, which are 1 to 2 minute dramas that were popularized in China, but now places like Hollywood have gone full into it. So I really predict a rise in that type of content, even though common people have already kind of been doing that type of thing. I think we'll see more of it. And I'm saying that to say that, Hollywood is grasping at straws at this point. So the fact that now you are looking at, I guess, reinventing what you've seen on social media to fit a Hollywood aesthetic, and there's this constant rehashing of what was already done. I can't remember what channel it's coming on, but I watch a lot of British television. And I loved Doc Martin, an amazing drama. So they've done an American version of Doc Martin. And as I'm looking at the um, the commercial, I'm like, this is Doc Martin. Same premise, but it's in America. And I'm like, okay, we'll see if this works. I don't want to wish ill, but this we're seeing a lot of that. So this is indicating to me that traditional Hollywood, traditional studio systems are grasping at straws and gasping for air because people, as you all just mentioned, want something that is authentic, something that you are not prescribing, but something that we can see ourselves in. And in a lot of what is being offered, we cannot. So I'm predicting a rise in microdramas and a rise in independent news and independent content in general, fueled by the fact of having gatekeepers for so long that told you no, and now there's nothing to stand in your way. So that's what I would say.
Great points, Dr. Tachi. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. I think there's going to be we're going to see a massive rise in independent media, broadly speaking, right, in 2026. We've already started to see it and see some independent media channels, particularly in the sort of news space. That's the place we've kind of seen it first get a toehold, really break through in 2025. And I agree. I think we're going to see more of it in 2026, not only for seeing those platforms grow and some new platforms emerge, particularly in the news media space. But I think also in independent and entertainment media, we're going to continue to see more independent media companies kind of find success because, again, to your point, they're creating and delivering content for niche audiences that Hollywood won't touch, right? That Hollywood won't create and has told them no over and over again, but audiences are really enjoying, right? And again, those audiences are too small too niche for sort of a large company like a large broadcaster, an NBC or whatever, to try to target, but they are really hyper targetable online, right? And easier to reach online, and especially through platforms like YouTube. So I agree. I think that we're going to continue to see more rise, and particularly in the entertainment media space, I think we're going to see a lot more coming in 2026, which actually leads me to my next prediction. Dom, do you mind if I just keep going for a second here? So another prediction for me for 2026 is we're going to see the rise of and beginning of what I believe is going to be a large trend, and that is entertainment content, and particularly sort of content that has strictly been reserved for Hollywood before. So entertainment content in the sense of like scripted, dramatic styles or comedic styles of content. I think we're going to see more of that coming directly from brands and businesses for their audiences, right? So we're going to see, I think there's huge opportunity for businesses to actually create content specifically for their audiences that is hyper targeted for them and appeals to them, but is not at all about sort of the product or service, right? And I'll just give you an example off the top of my head of like how I kind of see this happening. Imagine if Patagonia produced a content series, a scripted series around a group of climbers that go on an expedition, right? Scripted series, and it's kind of the story of we see the sort of relationships unfold throughout that series, right? And the entire thing is produced by Patagonia for people who are climbers and explorers and or fancy themselves to be like that, who like Patagonia's products, right? They're not necessarily selling Patagonia. Sure, people are going to be wearing Patagonia stuff, but it's not like they're only going to have Patagonia clothing on, right? Like I 100% see that kind of content coming in 2026 from brands and businesses. And hopefully I'll be involved in some of it. That's some of the work I'm trying to do, but I 100% see that coming in 2026.
Tom, that was a good one. I 100% agree with you and hope to be part of it as well. Why let the big guy do everything? Why don't we take our show and go on over there? They need us. Okay. Here's one of my trends. You have a PSA, Tom? We're going to do PSAs after my next trend. So you figure out your PSA, and I'm going to give you a trend that I think is coming back.
I do have a PSA, and it's a positive PSA. Wow. So instead of a gripe, I'm going positive today. Not necessarily for all of 2026, but today I'm going positive. It's a good one. I think you'll appreciate it.
And I might be on the negative end of it. Okay, so my next trend that I think is I just came from a networking group this morning. In-person events are back. They are coming back. They're coming back with a vengeance. Online will still be beneficial, but in person, when you can get out, touch, shake a hand, make eye contact, touch people one by one, that is something. It's not going to die. It's back. I read a thing the other day that it was like how many days since this, how many days since that. It's been like 2,000 days since the pandemic or something crazy, 1,800 days, whatever. Like the world is coming back. I went to dinner with my wife the other day and the place was packed. People are coming back. They're going back out in real life. Get yourself to in real life's events. They are coming back, Tom. That's what I got for you. Go on, and then we'll go to PSAs.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think there has. So here's the thing: is I agree with you. It's sort of a yes and, right? So I agree with you. I think we are seeing people, have a tendency towards wanting to go to in-person events more and more, right? And again, I don't know that is like necessarily, if you look at it and compare it to, maybe a couple of years before, like 2018 or 2019, right? Pre-pandemic, right? I think if you look at the level of people going to in-person events, we're still probably not as high, right? Or it's not as common as it was in 2018, right? So I think we're still coming back to pre-pandemic levels, but I think we're seeing people display a preference for in-person when possible. That said, I also think that video conferencing and remote meetings where you can actually see the people you're meeting with are also not going anywhere, right? I've seen some people talk about like, oh, we're going back to in-person, forget this virtual thing. We're not meeting virtually anymore. We're just doing in person, right? Nonsense. Like the virtual meeting, the video conference style of meeting is not going anywhere. That is complete nonsense that it's going to go away. I wholeheartedly reject that 100%. I think it's not going anywhere. It's going to continue to get used and continue to get used more and more. We're going to see its use go up over time. But I do agree that we're also seeing a return to sort of pre-pandemic levels of in-person events and meetings. And I agree with you. I think that is a good thing. The other thing I would say, though, is, and this is, because I happen to live in a county that has like the worst flu rate this year of any county in New York State, I would say make sure you get your flu shots and make sure that, you sort of do your due diligence and don't go into a crowded room full of sick people. And if you are sick, if you're not feeling well, don't go to that in-person event. Don't put other people at risk. You don't know, again, people could have underlying health conditions. You end up giving them the flu. For you, it's a couple of days, you don't feel good, and then you're fine. And for them, it could mean a trip to the hospital, right? So like, just bear that in mind. If you don't feel well, don't go to that in-person event, and be aware of kind of what's going on around you. But otherwise, yeah, I agree. I think we're going back to in-person. So with all of that said, why don't we do our PSAs? I'm going to flip it back to you. I'm going to ask you to go first. So here's my PSA. And it's a positive one. So I was scrolling through TikTok this morning, just, watching some videos while I was eating my breakfast after I got back from swimming. And I stumbled across this video and instantly felt like I was having a better day because of it. So someone has taken it upon themselves, following in the sort of the death of MTV, someone has taken it upon themselves to create a website, and I will put it up on screen, to create a website. Unfortunately, it covers the clock. But anyway, they've created this website that has like over 27,000 videos from MTV. And there's no algorithm. So you can go in, you can have it shuffle all the videos. You can go in, you can select by decade, right? So you can have it just play videos from a particular decade that you're fond of, right? These 2000s, right? But anyway, if you go to this website, and for those of you just listening, it's wantmyMTV.vercel.app. Go there, go to that website, check it out. It's really interesting. They have the video of like the very first broadcast from MTV, the first time they played the opening, the introduction of like what MTV was, the original VJs introducing themselves. It's all very like nostalgic and fun. But what really appealed to me and what I thought was really interesting was that it was non-algorithmic and you get to choose your own adventure, right? And I think that's something we're going to see more of in 2026 is this sort of rejection of algorithmic style content and the ability for people to choose their own adventure more and more on more and more platforms. So anyway, that's my overly long PSA today, but I thought it was worth sharing, and I can't wait to hear what you think when you go to that website and watch some MTV classics.
I dig it. I want to go. I was just thinking I might be so lame, and Jimmy, don't tell any of my friends this, anybody here. Just I remember when Dr. Dre came back with like, and they drove their lowriders through like Times Square to TRL, and I had grown up with Dr. Dre, and then it was like a couple years, and now he's back, and he just drives his car down like through Times Square, and they start playing on TRL. I'm telling you, I was almost in tears. I was like, this is the highest high point of my young formidable years was when Dre came back on TRL. So I dig it, Tom. I want my MTV as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so with you. In fact, I remember like again, anecdotally, I worked for MTV for a few years, particularly on the show Made on a couple of seasons that we won Emmys for. And one of the things that people for a long time, our office was a little bit further up Broadway, but we did end up moving into Broadway, which is where the TRL studio was in Times Square. And so I had an office in that building for a while and would go past the TRL studio like every day on my way into work. And I remember how cool, friends of mine thought it was that I got to go to work there and I got to go into that building every day. And I got to, go past the people lined up to try to get into TRL and go past that studio every day and see them filming TRL like in the building when I was at work or coming back from lunch or whatever. So yeah. Anyway, I anecdotally, yes. And then the other thing too, fun fact, I'm sure the first video that was ever played on MTV, right? What song it was for?
Is it Video Killed the Radio Star? Is that what it is? There
You
go.
got it. Video killed the radio star. And that phrase is actually like what I put when I a couple of years ago when I made sweatshirts for my company for Talix Media. That's what I put on the back was that phrase, video killed the radio star. And yeah. So anyway, yeah, I definitely have an affinity for it. I know Ms. was saying she was watching it now and yeah, she said she's it's very cool. But yeah, definitely check out that link. I can't wait to hear what you think about it. But in the meantime, I think we got a minute or two for a memory lane, and then a wrap up. We're getting close to the end of the first episode of 2026.
Good stuff, Tom. I appreciate you. And the one thing I love about Tom is Tom never brags about all these places he's worked, and like he'll be like, "Oh, I worked for the BBC. I met Anthony Bourdain," but he never talks about it. Then some random time like this, he's like, "Oh, I worked at MTV and one of the buildings during TRL." So there's a lot of layers to this onion that we know as Tom. Okay, memory lane for today. I was in a convenience store last night, and I was getting a Diet Mountain Dew, but that's neither here nor there. So I'm in a convenience store yesterday. I saw a cousin of mine, and I'm like, "Hey, Cody, how you doing? Love to see the guy." And it reminded me I was in that same convenience store about 20 years ago. And on that day, 20 years ago, I had a restaurant, and my restaurant was closing. I was going broke, and I was going to his dad's party. It was a Memorial Day party down the road. His dad told me I didn't need to bring something. He invited me and he said, come have a good time. And I remember being so thankful that his dad invited me to this event, that he didn't pressure me to bring something. He just said, come have a good time. And now I did go to that Sheets that day and buy nachos because I was thinking I still got to take something. But even the $5 to buy nachos was a lot for me. I was $500,000 in the holes. But his dad was the one that extended the olive branch. But in a sidebar to this story, kid that rode my bus years ago when I was in school, he was at that Sheets 20 years ago on that hard day when I was broke. I had thought this kid stole a pair of my basketball shoes on the bus one time, and we were young kids. They went missing. I thought he stole them. I told him, I think he stole them. He said I didn't steal them. That day, when I was completely broke, 20 years later, I see this kid walking out of that Sheets. He walks up to me and he shakes my hand. He's like, Dom, how you doing? And he's like, I want you to have something. And like, we're talking for a second. He's like, here, I want you to have something. I reach out my hand. The kid gave me $100 bill. And he said, I did steal those shoes from you. I felt bad about it ever since. So that kid made it right. All these things, you have this opportunity, all these things that bad that you did, that one day he made it right. Kevin, thank you. Appreciate you. On that day where I was down and out, I was 500,000 in the hole. My uncle invited me over, said I didn't have to bring anything, and Kevin gave me $100. So that's memory lane for today. Make it right, Tom.
I like it. And I agree. I mean, I think it's never too late, right? Like I had an experience recently that was kind of akin to what you're talking about with the guy with the shoes. So met up with a bunch of old friends from high school right before Thanksgiving, and one of the guys like kind of pulls me aside, one of the guys that was there, and he says, hey man, I just want you to know I was a real jerk to you in high school and I'm sorry. And I was like, I don't really remember you being that much of a jerk, right? Like I didn't think of it that way. I didn't really remember him being that much of a jerk to me, but he really felt like he had been. And he felt bad about it. And, you know, we're quite a few years out of high school at this point. And, you know, he wanted to say something about it. He wanted to sort of, you know, to express that he felt bad about it all this time and, you know, wanted to apologize. And I appreciated it. I didn't feel it was necessary. Like I kind of still don't. You know, I told him it's water under a bridge that we crossed a very long time ago. So don't worry about it. But yeah, I appreciated it. And look, like, even if I didn't feel bad about it, if it made him feel better for me to accept that apology all these years later, happy to do it. Right. So yeah, I think it never is too late. Never is too late to say something if you've you know, even if you just feel like you've slighted someone in the past, it's never too late to sort of make amends. And it's an easy thing to do. It's an easy way to kind of make somebody else's day, if not your own. So with all of that said, I've now got like less than a minute for a wrap up here. So I think I will leave you guys with this. Here's another trend, you know, and talking about Soma Digital left this in the comments, was talking about AI deepfakes sort of proliferating throughout 2026, how we're going to see more of that. And I agree, we are going to see more of that. I think the alternative or the response to that is not necessarily to label all the AI stuff, right? I think one of the best solutions I've heard is to instead label the authentic stuff, right? So instead of trying to worry about like hunting out and figuring out what's AI and what isn't, right? Maybe just label all the authentic stuff, right? Sort of think of it as like the equivalent of the early days of like organic food being labeled in the grocery store, right? Only a few things were labeled organic and everything else was inorganic, right? So like look at it that way. Label the real stuff, right, as authentic, and everything else is automatically considered inauthentic. Whether it's AI or not, if it hasn't earned the label, right, it falls into that inauthentic category, right? I think that is maybe a good solution or a good approach to finding a solution to combating the proliferation of sort of AI deepfake content, which I agree we're going to see more and more of. The flip side of that is for the people that are doing it for comedic value and using it to poke fun at people in powerful positions, I would say keep doing it. keep at it. That is, in my mind, a great use of AI and a great use of AI deepfakes. That's all we've got for you guys this week. Only time will tell whether or not any of our predictions come true in this year in 2026. But regardless of whether or not they do, we'll be here every week talking about what's going on in the world with you guys and for you guys. We appreciate you. We love you. For Dom, I'm Tom. We are not the smartest guys in the room. Until we see you again next week, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you. And bye-bye.